just had an appointment with the CF doctors over the phone, and I've asked quite a few questions about Trikafta, Kaftrio, and they give me quite a few decent answers. And I know we're all learning and we're all asking sort of similar questions, so I thought I'd put together a quick FAQ video, if you like, just explaining what they've told me, and it might help you out, it might answer some questions you've got. So the first question I had for him was about this purge, or so-called purge that people are having, and whether my initial purge in the first few days when I was coughing up quite a bit, now that that's sort of settled down and I'm coughing up a little bit every now and then, whether that was sort of me, done, whether that was like the end of the drastic changes. And what he said to me is, and I didn't even realise this, is that the gene doesn't just automatically correct itself straight away. So if you don't take your first dose or your first week's dose and your genes go, boop, we're alright now, we're sorted. It takes quite a bit of time for it to start correcting itself. And he did say that depends on the person whether or not sort of you don't produce sputum anymore, or the sputum moves easier, whether you get a big purge, whether you don't. But he said it tends to work different for everyone, and the basic idea behind it is that your airway clearance when you breathe in and out goes to a level that's normal or near to normal, which helps you clear out whatever you create. So what I took from that, and what I think he was getting at, is it doesn't stop sputum production entirely, but you move it then like a normal person. But then on some people it might stop it entirely, some people it might not. Either way, it gets your body functioning normal, and from the chest point of view and your lungs point of view, your breathing should be a lot better and a lot clearer, regardless of whether you're still producing or you're not. I think it's important to note from what he said to me that even if you don't clear loads in the first week, or you get a little bit like I haven't and it stops, it's not stopped working for you, it's continuously working in the background, and it's still correcting and making sure that gene works better as a result. So I'd say don't be disheartened if you don't get a massive coughing fit, or even if you do get a massive coughing fit and you feel like shit for 2 weeks, it's clearing out and it's working and you've got a lot of build up. Another interesting thing that I asked him about was Pseudomonas. I've read quite a bit online in different groups that Pseudomonas is being eradicated by Trikafta and Kaftrio. So I had a big conversation with him about it, because I grow Pseudomonas, so I said, what's the likelihood of it going? And he kind of said, what happens is, you've always got Pseudomonas. Most people with cystic fibrosis have still got Pseudomonas, but because you're producing so little sputum, and it's, the volume is drastically reduced, then it's harder to find in tests. So your immediate tests that you have, it'll be a lot harder to find. But he said back-end studies and studies of drugs that have been previous states that you've still got the Pseudomonas, it still grows, but obviously with the lack of sputum, it's either not as aggressive, or it can't really thrive that well based on the fact that you're not producing loads and you've not got loads stuck there. So what I took from that is your Pseudomonas might be more easy and well managed, but the likelihood is, even if you get a test where it doesn't show, it could be gone, but there's a big chance that it's still there. But let's be honest, if it's that low that it's not showing on your sputum, then we can take that as a win. If it's there pissing about in the background or not, it's an amazing thing that it's not showing up, because your infection rates are that low. So that's always positive, regardless of whether it's there, whether it isn't. I think that kind of outweighs the fact that it's still in your body if it's not actually doing anything, because it's getting suffocated by Kaftrio. So one thing I did ask him as well was about lung function. I wanted to go in and do a spiral shortly, but he was kind of trying to talk me out of it due to the coronavirus and all that kind of stuff. Obviously they don't want us around the hospitals, which is fair enough. I said to him I'd like to, because that's how I kind of measure myself in wellness, like most people do with CF. And what he said to that was, he was trying to get through to me quite clearly that despite lung function, if your lung function hasn't gone up by 10-15%, it in no way means that the medication isn't working. And I think that's important. That's important to hear from a doctor, because if I would have gone in and my lung function was below 84%, I would have gone, oh shit, it's not working. But at the end of the day, if I've got lung damage and for 33 years my lungs have been getting shit on, then it might be a case that they might not go up, but it outweighs it in terms of the way I'm actually feeling, because I feel fantastic. And if I can then maintain it and try not to get my lung function worse, that should be easier to maintain. So I think it's important for me and everyone to kind of dampen your expectations a little bit and just take the drug for what it is. Because I know for a fact that if my lung function was 50%, but I still had the energy to go to the gym and do everything that I was going to do, I'd feel confident and better off knowing that I could do what I wanted to do and it wasn't impacting me. Well, I also mentioned diabetes to him as well, because I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, my diabetes has gone well more controllable, and to be honest, within the first week, as you probably saw of mine, I felt like it was going more controllable. To be honest, at this point, it's the same as it always is. It seemed to go a little bit better, but you know what diabetes is like, that could have just been a day. He said it's more so if your lungs are really, really exhausted and you're fighting infection, and this drug has then lifted you right up and stopped you being so ill and your infection markers being high and everything like that, your body was probably fighting cystic fibrosis really hard and diabetes, and your blood sugars have been like that because your body's all over the place. They said in that case they would probably expect blood sugars to have gone down, or at least there have been a bigger impact. But if someone's quite luckily well off like I was in theory, they'd expect less of a dramatic impact on your blood sugars. So my diabetes would probably remain unchanged, but that's probably because that's the way it's going to be, and my body wasn't always fighting off infections, believe it or not, which means that there's not really much change in my blood sugars. But again, it's not something to be disappointed about, because how lucky am I that my body wasn't fighting off infection and sending my blood sugars over in the first place, so I'll take them how they are. Diabetes is more of a ball ache than CF. It sounds really weird to say that, but the amount of care and attention you have to put into diabetes every day is a ball ache. But it is what it is. Feel better in general. I'm not going to cry about diabetes not being cured. I've done nearly 17 years of it, well 17 years of it on my way. I also spoke to him about the mental side of it. I don't know if you've noticed, but in a few of my videos I've talked about the mental weight and the fact that it's making people and myself feel unhappy, which is weird. There's one thing I kind of want to clear up about it as well. I don't think people should feel guilty for being unhappy or down or depressed or still worried or scared, because at the end of the day, people have still got cystic fibrosis. We're not cured. We've been fighting it for all this time. You are still entitled to be unwell and feel down about things. Do you know what I mean? This doesn't, oh well, you should be happy now because you're on this. I don't think that should apply to anyone, because it's still hard. This just doesn't cure you. In some ways it adds more stress and anxiety to you. But anyway, I asked him about it, and he said they have noticed that people have been sort of down and anxious on it. He said he shouldn't imagine that it'd cause me a problem based on my mental background and stuff like that. But if it gets any worse, to let them know. But he said obviously it can carry a lot of weight, all of a sudden being fine-ish, and the changes in your body, it can carry a dramatic impact in your head, which sometimes you don't realise. So I think with that they're aware of it, but it's a case-by-case basis, and there's no direct proof to say that this is causing it. I mean, I think in me personally, it's caused me to have a few down days, but that's just probably all the excitement and the adrenaline and everything fading off, and your mind's going to be a bit mashed up because you're doing a lot, you're thinking about a lot, and a lot's changing in your body. So yeah, on that, there's not really much advice he could give other than, you know, you monitor it and you tell me what you think. So I think that's pretty much the same for everyone at the moment. But bottom line is, if you are feeling anxious, if you are upset, scared, down, depressed, then no one's going to judge you for it, because you're still entitled to have all them things, even though you've got Trikafta and Kaftrio. No one's going to look at you and say, well, he or she's on a miracle cure now, he shouldn't be whinging. Whinge all you want, you're entitled to it. I whinge all the time. So obviously, all I've just said is what my doctor has told me and sometimes how I've interpreted it. But by all means, if you've had a different story, or you've got a cheeky man on the inside who's giving you the decent stuff, let me know in the comments. Let everyone know in the comments. Let's have a chat about it.